Our generation has been taught the same concept for almost 12 years. In kindergarten, we are taught, if you have a question, you politely raise your hand and wait until you are called on. When you are called on, you politely ask your question and then your teacher gives you the answer. This happens all the way up until your senior year and even continues in higher education. It is something we are familiar with, we have grown up with, and is something that happens in education all around the world. But within the past year, teaching, learning, and education has drastically changed. The traditions we have had for hundreds of years are slowly being replaced by online learning. At the surface, online learning seems like a good idea, until you take a deeper look and realize the disadvantages and differences it has. The first one being no longer having face-to-face learning. Instead of meeting face-to-face with the teacher, you are met with a sterile computer screen with no social interaction. Next, raising your hand to ask a question. Instead of raising your hand to ask a question, you have to awkwardly unmute your microphone, wait for a response, and sometimes accidentally speak over another professor or student, which is really awkward. And lastly, access to homework help. You can no longer walk up to the teacher like you have for the past 12 plus years. Instead, you have to wait 12 to 24 hours for a response, or sort through hundreds of files online to find an example problem similar to yours. On March 17, 2020, Utah Valley University changed all of their in-person classes to online to prevent the spread of coronavirus. At the time, this was a good idea. It kept all of us safe. But we were quickly transitioned into online learning with no training. And because of this, we found many disadvantages that occurred to everyday college students like me and you. According to weforum.org, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed education forever. My name is Mercedes Smith, along with my partners, Heather Homewood and Lauren Taylor. Today, we persuade you to realize that in-person schooling is more effective, beneficial, and rewarding for college students. In this presentation, I will be discussing the introduction, what online schooling really is, what it means, and what the students prefer, in person or online. Next, Heather will be discussing the comparative advantages and disadvantages of online versus in-person schooling. And lastly, Lauren will tie everything up, replaying all the information we have taught you, and ultimately telling you how this is applicable to both me and you. According to Andy Non, colleges and students were not prepared for prolonged closures. Both face a variety of challenges going forward. These challenges we have already discussed. There are basic challenges that we face every day, but if you look deeper, there can be deeper ones that are affecting us day to day. The first being no longer having everyday social interaction. For 12 straight years, we go to school every day and interact with our peers, but that is no longer a norm for both college students and even those entering into kindergarten. Lacking social interaction is making us realize it's easier to talk to a computer than another human. We even have the possibility of delaying our answers up to 24 hours in an email. Next, mental health. Our mental health is being greatly affected because of coronavirus and online school. Those who are sitting in front of a desk every single day for hours at a time are more likely to have anxiety and depression, and it's only getting worse every day. And lastly, setbacks in education. There are many setbacks in education already, failing a class or missing a day of school. But because of this online schooling, it can only get worse. So, let's see what the students had to say. We sent out a survey anonymously to 400 students between the ages of 18 to 24 in Utah County, and we were not surprised by the responses and numbers we received. The first question we asked, do students prefer online or in-person schooling? Not to our surprise, students preferred in-school versus online school. 69.8% of students preferred in-person, meanwhile only 30.3% preferred online. Next, we asked them if it was an easy or difficult transition to get into online schooling. the numbers rose even higher. 76.8% of students felt as though it was easy to transition into online school. Meanwhile, only 23.3% felt that they had an easy time transitioning. And lastly, if students had easy or limited access to resources and professors. This number is what shocked us the most. 86.8% of students felt as though they had easy access to resources and teachers, making their schooling and education easier. Meanwhile, a mere 13.3% felt as though it was an easy transition. So, with these numbers, what can we analyze? In-person is a lot easier for students like me and you every day, and online schooling has more difficulties and challenges every day. Now that we've discussed this, I'm moving along with Heather for her to discuss the comparative advantages and disadvantages of online schooling.